With Golden Sun being the metacore hit that it was, and honestly, it really wasn't that bad. Okay, minus my nitpicks and my complaints, not to mention the fact that it came out and then a mere 9 months later I could get the next game. Still, meh. But anyway, of course, every game that's good has to get a sequel. And yes, I know I had some issues with the last one. See my first video, my review on Golden Sun. You'll understand what some of those issues were. Yes, the whole missing Psynergy, difficult puzzles that aren't that difficult, weird pacing, stupid decisions, the fact that stuff isn't locked, yes, it's just a massive thing. However, they pale in comparison to what lies ahead, because now we're looking at The Lost Age. And oh boy, this one's a bad one. So hike up your socks and throw out your Nintendo guy, because it ain't gonna help you on this one, trust me. And let's dive in to Golden Sun: The Lost Age. So Golden Sun: The Lost Age picks up right pretty much near the tail end of the original Golden Sun game. Only you start off as Jenna. Yes, that's right. The character that was kidnapped at the start of the first game, well, she's back, and you get to control her for a small amount of time. Felix leads you and Kraden out of the lighthouse, at least to the part of no return once you leave the door. Now, this game has the uniqueness of being hacked by so many people that there are videos all over the place as to what happens. Basically put, don't hack the game, it's not really worth it. It's funny, but then again, somebody else already did it, let them have the glory of it. You can't really explore much of Venus Lighthouse other than what's already been opened, and all that's basically due to Isaac and his gang already coming through. There is a herb that you're able to get at the one point because it's left in the chest, but otherwise it's just leave the lighthouse and go for the cutscene. Basically, the soldiers of Lavero have found you. They're not happy. They want revenge. They want Sheba. And in all honesty, Alex, who's coming out with you but never actually joining you, decides he wants to go and take on their reinforcements back at the home base, and instructs you and Kraden to head to the boat. Now, you know where it is, you know where the basically is, and so do we because we ran into it back in the first game. So it's kind of an interesting, meh kind of deal here. But either way, you head back that way, taking on a few thugs and a punch-in along the way as Jenna. First off, I want to say that Jenna's battle music is one of the most kick-ass in the entire game. And I mean this. The whole game series, that is one of the best songs ever. If you get a chance to listen to it on YouTube, I highly recommend it. It is worth it. It is just kick-ass cool. Upon arriving at the boat, you're joined by Alex, and watch as Venus Lighthouse lights up, now pretty much reminiscing on the end of the first game. Eventually, the small little part of the island that you're on breaks off and floats out to sea. And the cutscene from the end of the first Golden Sun game plays, and you see that Felix and Sheba have somehow survived. After pulling their asses back onto land and finding out that they're still technically alive, you're all basically, cheerful, because there's land. You're looking forward to finally finding some hope. And a tidal wave's immediately about to dash that hope to pieces. Why? Well, it's quite simple actually, because the tidal wave was created by the earth shaking underneath upon the Venus Lighthouse's, lighting. Because of this, the tidal wave is now coming and crashes your small little island as it is into, the bigger continent. This is going to be your new home for a long time, so get ready to enjoy it. In fact, when Zero the First recently started doing The Lost Age on the live stream of his, I actually made the comment that there is a lot more in this part than there is in anything else. And in fact, it's only 3 characters you get to play as for a good chunk of this game. Much more than the first. In the first game, you got to play as Isaac and Garrett for a small amount of time once you got to Vault. But afterwards, once you got towards the Biblin Pass, Ivan tagged along, and the small little part in Vault where you took on the thieves. Then you just have this whole strangeness to it. The fact that you don't get Piers in this game till almost a good chunk of the way through, and you're at Kibombo, or basically the weird village. It's sad. Strange, but sad. But anyway, upon awakening, you get to do a little dance to make sure that you're alright. And honestly, it's worth a couple seconds to watch it. Waking everybody up and leaving the island, or just hightailing it off the island and they immediately wake up and follow you. Because they don't like being left behind, and yeah, the game's not going to let you leave them behind anyway. You head to the closest town, which honestly isn't really that impressive. They're slowly recovering from the tidal wave that just hit the entire continent, which threw you into it. And in all honesty, all hell's breaking loose because of it. Multiple places, even on the adjacent continent alone, are actually not doing too well. Yeah, I know, but still. Anyway, upon going into town and finding out that you need a ship and they don't have one, you try heading out to the next place. Only in this case, you go to the Shrine of the Sea God first, and help rescue two little kids who were playing in there when the tidal wave hit. Afterwards, you go down to a small temple, complete a small trial, and manage to get yourself the Lash Pebble, which you need in order to do the Shrine of the Sea God thing. So, yeah, I know, backwards ass, but still. You also get the mysterious card, which allows you to use some really unique psi energy, but in all honesty, it's meh at best. Then we get into what I'd like to call the fun parts of the game, when you head to the next town. And the next town, well, they got a person there they're holding prisoner. Why, you ask? Because they were just attacked by a pirate. Yes, a pirate. Because the pirate came in and stole from them, and they think the person that they have locked up is part of the pirate's crew. That person is Piers. Yes, Piers is a Lumerian. He comes from Lumeria. Lumeria, if you remember right, is what Bobby wants you to find. Well, he wants Isaac and them to find it, and you're not Isaac, so you don't have to worry about that. But you will be finding it later on. Spoiler alert. Either way, after doing the small little crap-ass quests and everything else, you head towards the desert. And, well, technically you head towards the next continent. That is the problem. So you have to cross a bridge to get to the continent, and you need permission from somebody in the town to cross the bridge, which you get after a really weird cutscene, and then you head off to the bridge. After crossing it, you head off to the small little screw you, and then, well, there you go. Now, there is a section before all of this where you get a new psi energy and another Djinn, but honestly, it's basically a humdrum, nothing really exciting happens there sort of section. Upon entering the next area, you are immediately brought to what I'd like to call the second or third desert from hell. If you remember the first Golden Sun game, you had the first desert, which basically created oases and everywhere that you need to use Reveal for, or just power your way through until you get to the end and need to use Reveal to beat the boss. So yeah, real great idea there, game. Anyway, this desert has its own challenges, and you end up meeting up with the group that came from the town you were just at. Seems they're lost. Yeah, their great leader has basically got them lost. Well, technically the mayor's son. Yeah, don't ask, long story. But anyway, after, well, I kind of want to say saving their sorry butts, you eventually manage to find your way out of the desert. Now this is where the game gets fun. While you're now on this continent, or at least part of it anyway, you get to go to a couple other places. Now you could go to them before going to the desert, which, yeah, you probably should, because it'll probably help you out a little later. but you can technically take a shortcut in the desert to get to those sections anyway. And that would be Garroth and Ayers Rock. Now, the unique part about Golden Sun: The Lost Age is the fact that Psy-Energy is learned not only by leveling up or by having Din, but by also gaining it via items that you can hold, similar to what they tried to do in the first game with the Frost and Douse gems, the catch beads and stuff like that. But you can also learn Psy-Energy in The Lost Age via stone tablets. And these are put at 4 different areas. You have Ayers Rock, Aqua Rock, Gaia Rock, and Magma Rock. Each one of these, as you can guess, corresponds to one particular element: wind, water, earth, and fire. Which kind of makes the point here that this entire game is nothing but an oversized Captain Planet. Yes, I know. Bear with me. Either way, upon exiting and going through all these challenges, you learn about the people of Garroth, and you learn the reveal Psy-Energy at Ayers Rock. Kind of ironic, taking that Ivan had to learn it in the first game by having his, well, we'll get to that part, teach it to him by holding his hand, yet Sheba learns it by touching a rock. Go figure. After all that fun bullshit's out of the way, you manage to catch up to the pirates, and in all honesty, this is where the game kind of takes a strange turn. Yes and no to the following questions. Yes, there is some decentness to this. No, it doesn't make any sense even now. Turns out the pirate is named Briggs, part of the Champa. And what does he do? Well, he was stealing stuff. He stole a whole bunch of stuff at the town called Madria, or Madara, or however you pronounce it, and sold it to the other town of Al-Hafra, and basically is going to be leaving with their boat. Only the boat is damaged thanks to the tidal wave. Yay! Figuring that nobody was going to catch up to him, him and his merry crew just made themselves at home. After you and your gang royally spank his ass, he basically goes to jail. You get a crappy little cutscene and the option to do some repairs on the boat, which you can do up to 1 point, so in all honesty, just hold off until you have to come back for the final part anyway. See, you need a certain Psy-Energy to break the final rock that's holding the mast down, and you don't get that for a while. This game is long, tedious, and arduous to say the least. After this, you head back to Madria, and you find out that Piers was released. And immediately went off to Kibumbo. Yeah, I know. See, it turns out that their witch doctor is trying to do his ritual to become the witch doctor. And unfortunately, he sucks at it. You see, you need to use Psy-Energy in the great Kibumbo statue in order to get it to basically utilize and welcome you. Moron out there just thinks if I pump energy into it and have everybody pray with all their hearts that I will become the new leader of this village. Doesn't work that way, but go for it. Anyway, you team up with Piers and don't try to leave because he will just basically not stick around on your party. So anyway, after all the fun is said and done, Piers joins your party. You manage to solve the riddles and Piers sticks around. Finally, the 4th member of the crew is here. Now, you have to go back to Madara, and if you imported the save data from the first game, yes, there is an option to do that, which is really interesting in this game. One of 2 ways to do it. Either type in a massively long code, which is more of a headache than it is, or just transfer the data via the Game Boy Advance link cable. However, if you're playing this thing years later on an emulator, the code is your best bet. I kind of think the creators realized that this would probably at some point in time get emulated, where they'd be playing this on computers and other devices, and link cables would not be usable. Honestly, gotta give them credit on that one. That's some pretty damn good forethought there. Anyway, you basically managed to get yourself back to, well, the area that you have to be. You managed to get the Cyclone chip from the mayor, find out that a person who you have no idea who it is has been spying on you slightly because she wants to know where Isaac is, and she realizes who you are. Yeah, it turns out this little pest is Minardi's sister, Karst. Yeah, the little bitch has a bug up her ass too, just like her older sister. However, when you tell her that her older sister is currently at the bottom of the sea, sleeping with the fishes and Sataros, yeah, she doesn't take that well. She swears revenge on Isaac and heads off. Again, if you imported the data from the first game, you get to basically take on the three thieves from Vault. Yeah, it goes about the way you'd imagine. You whoop their ass, nothing much, nothing else. After all that's said and done, you head towards Piers' ship, and after taking out all the monsters, you set sail by putting the orb back into its proper home. Now, you can't go straight for Lemuria. Well, you can, but there's a problem. One, Poseidon. Yeah, unless you have the three pieces of the trident and you have it forged, you can't scratch him. He's got a force field on him that stops everything from hitting him. Miserable prick. So you have to actually go to different places. One of the places you end up going to is a place called Yalom. Yalom is one of the most annoying places in this game. It's where the blacksmith is, for starters, but it's also where there is a stupid song and dance you get to learn. However, you need to know that song and dance in order to get through the river and the Sea of Time. Yes, I thought it was needed just for the stupid swamp part, but no, it's actually the song for the Sea of Time. Go figure. Another neat little part of this town is if you have the Foresight energy from the first game when you get it later on, I'll explain, you get to come back for a pretty cool weapon. Otherwise, you head over towards the swamp, try your best to solve the riddle, and get yourself the Djinn, then get the hell out of Dodge. Going back to the ship, you go around to some of the other islands, the Pokchi Islands, and Aqua Rock, and Izumo and Gigarock. Yes. As well as a few other places, picking up some small odds and ends, including one that you're gonna need to get one of the most greatest summons ever later on in the game. Yes, it's gonna be worth it, trust me. It's just a small fetch quest that leads you to giving a turtle a friend. Anyway, after going down south, and I mean way down south, not even close to crossing the border, now you go down to basically an ice continent, and down there you basically find yourself into a tower, Tundra Tower. And inside the tower, well, it's the final piece of the trident. Well, one of the final pieces actually, because the final piece is actually in a place called, the name's not even worth it. You end up going there, it's just a little ways south of Champa. The three trident places are basically located in three places. Tundra Tower, Shrine of the Sea God, and the stupid sand tower that honestly is more of a nightmare than anything else. So that's basically it. That's where all of this goes. Upon getting everything, including a couple new Psi Energy, you go back to Alhafra, break the mast free of the rock, and Briggs steals the ship. Chase his sorry ass to Champa, take on his grandma's salamander. She decides to go Old Testament on his ass by basically throwing down what an old person can do, and you royally piss them off and lie to them. And Briggs' wife comes in and saves the day, mostly for his sake. Then you give the three pieces of the trident to Grandma. Grandma basically rebuilds the trident, and now you can head off to the Sea of Time and Lemuria. After giving Poseidon what's for, you find yourself in Lemuria. And after the cutscene of, oh yeah, everybody here is basically a Time Lord, yeah, you find out that Piers' mother has sadly died. He leaves your group, but don't worry, he'll be back. However, here you can do some really fun stuff, including gaining some new summons. Another great idea that this game really gives you. They're scattered throughout the entire world, mostly in caves, or in this case, part of a reward for the Lucky Fountain. Now, if you ever played that back in the original Golden Sun and Tabuli, you're going to love it here. Because if you get a bullseye right off the bat, at least one time only, you can get the Eclipse summon. And it is one of the best summons you're going to want, especially for what's coming up next. Trust me, it's worth it. Anyway, after finding out that the whole Earth was technically one, and all of Weird is technically one thing, but it's being split apart by the power of alchemy, you are now given the task of once again reuniting and reigniting the lighthouses to return the lost age towards us. As CinemaSins would say, roll credits. But don't roll them just yet. We're finally about halfway through the game. I'm not even joking. Upon going back, yes, again, back after leaving Lemuria, you end up having to use grind on the massive boulder that is blocking your pathway from getting to the western half of the world. Oh, this is gonna be fun. You got grind in Lemuria because none of the Lemurians can use it, and Felix is the only Earth Adept you have on your team, for now. Upon getting your ass over to the western half of the world, you have to go up to the Shaman's village. There you must go on trial against the Shamans. Basically, it's a race. Think of it like Tabuli's Colosso. You get to the top, you take on the other team, and should you be victorious, you get a new Psy-Energy. The Hover Gem, which you need to get into Jupiter Lighthouse. Yes, finally, the first lighthouse in this game takes you an arm and a leg length of time to get there. After finally getting the area to open up so that you can throw the elemental star in, you head back. Only to basically find out that, well, there's a problem. See, back in Champa, you actually ran into Alex, Karst, and another new character, Agaito, or Agasto, or Agato, or however the hell you want to pronounce his name. Basically, they set a trap for Isaac, Garrett, Mai, and Ivan. What's that trap? We're gonna snag one of them down on the bottom, and hopefully it'll be enough so that we can kill them. They nabbed two of them, Garrett and Mai, leaving Isaac and Ivan to defend themselves. Now, for those of you that have played the first game by now, you know how weak Ivan is. So this is just fun. However, the two manage to hold their own for as long as they can until Ivan finally runs out of strength. Isaac, now basically alone, gets basically taken down by Agato in a really kick-ass cutscene. Honestly, it's really cool, though the only time you're ever really going to see something like that, especially with only two characters. Though I have to admit, they really didn't do too bad of a job, and should this ever get to be made into an anime, God knows, that's going to be one hell of a two-parter. You manage to race up there, finally getting, right before there, Alex decides to show up and finally just give you what's for. At least that's what you think. As long as you promise to light the lighthouse, he recovers all your power, energy, and health, so that you can take on Agato and Karst. And then you basically go up to the top of the lighthouse, just you and Piers, and you start the battle to end all battles. That is after they steal the Mars Star off of you and realize that you're no longer relevant anymore because we're Fire Adepts and we don't need you anymore. Time to spank you down and smack you down like yesterday's garbage. Which they proceed to do. Until Jenna and Sheba come in different intervals, and it becomes a 4-on-2 fight. And honestly, that's where the shit finally hits the fan. The moment you beat them, it's wonderful. Until Alex comes and revives them both. Why? Because he still needs them for his sinister plan. Yes, the puppeteer has been pulling the strings of the puppet this entire time. After all this is said and done, Isaac and the gang show up, and there's nowhere for you to run anymore since they know where you are. Head back into town because they want to talk. Once you get back to town, all hell breaks loose. You want to try to run and hide, but you can't. Felix is terrified to actually confront Isaac, fearing that he's actually going to, well, be mad at him. But everything comes out. The fact that Felix's parents and Isaac's father are being held prisoner in Prox to the north, the fact that alchemy has to be awakened for the world to be saved, and the fact that they have to now work together. Their two separate goals have suddenly changed and become one goal. Oh, and you remember the girl from the village back in the first Golden Sun game that taught Ivan the reveal psi energy? Turns out she's his sister. Yep. Gotta love it. You can go back up towards the shaman village after everybody gets all hunky-dory with each other and they fly out of town on their now flyable ship because they threw wings on it. Yeah, don't ask. And you can basically now fly around at the cost of your psi energy, which honestly, find a town, replenish it at the end, and you can just fly around for eternity. Well, essentially. You still can't go back to parts from the original Golden Sun game, and in all honesty, you're not allowed to anyway. See, back in Champa again, we found out that Lord Bobby is dead. And it is believed that the ruckus caused by Sitaris and Minardi, as well as the kidnapping of Sheba, were all responsible for this. So, of course, everyone in that part of the continent wants your heads on a platter. Needless to say, you're not allowed back. It's sad but true. Upon going to Magma Rock and gaining the final psi energy, this one going to Jenna, by the way, you end up going on a nice little quest to get the Magma Ball, which you need for one of two things. There's a small town called Loho that you need that to blow open a wall so you can get a cannon, and you need the cannon and the Magma Ball to break open the ice to get the Prox in the north. Yes, I know how I just said that is weird, but it's true. Upon entering Prox, you realize the world is still coming to an end and Prox is still close to being swallowed whole. Even the Mars Lighthouse doesn't have much time left. And this is where the game starts reaching its climax. Oh, so you would think, but I'll explain. You go into the Mars Lighthouse and, again, all hell starts breaking loose. Of course, you manage to find your way to what I like to call the middle of the lighthouse, and there you battle two flame dragons. Now, these flame dragons look oddly familiar. Well, that's kind of because they are. See, the flame dragons are Karst and Agato. Or Aganto, or again, however you want to pronounce the guy's name. Big muscle guy. Yep, turns out they were turned into flame dragons by the Wise One, who's still pissed off that all this is still happening. He wanted you guys to stop this, because if the Golden Sun comes back, then all of Weird will be doomed as far as he's concerned. Alchemy cannot exist in this world. Yet psi energy can. Go figure. Anyway, at this point, you pretty much have access to some pretty cool weapons. Especially in the Mars Lighthouse, you find the Soul Blade, the best weapon in this game. As well as the Teleport Lass, which allows you to teleport to any previous town you've been to. Yes, this comes in very handy, as well as comes in handy for a few other things as well. You see, you need this and all 72 Jin from both the games in order to unlock the final Saticum, as well as getting 4 very powerful summons: Azul, Daedalus, Catastrophe, and I swear there was a 4th one. Desert, Island, Star Guy. I know there was a 4th one. I swear there was a... Oh! No, Catastrophe, Daedalus, Azul. What was the 4th and final one? I know there was a 4th one. There's like 4 of them! Oh well, anyway, you get my point. There's some more powerful summons that you gotta get, and a couple extra Jin along the way. Clearing these tasks nets you Catastrophe, which is one of the best summons if you don't get the final one, or you don't have all 72 Jin. And... that's the best part. you get to take on some really powerful mid-level range boss fights. Basically, these bosses are pretty much about on par with Fusion Dragon from the first game. At least that's how I felt taking them on. I really had to do some preparation before I took each one of them on too, so that says something. However, if you manage to have all 72 Jin from the first 2 games combined, you can enter the Animos Saticum. Here you get 2 powerful summons, Charon and Iris. Charon you just are given right at the start of it because the pedestal and the tablet for it are literally sitting right there upon entering it after you prove you have all the Jin. But Iris, you gotta work for that. Through some puzzles, trials, and tribulations, all ending with a battle against Dullahan. Once you take down Dullahan, well, that's the end of that chapter. Iris is yours, and you now have the most powerful summon in the game going into the final part of the game. Now, if you manage to do this, which, by the way, you really should. I didn't have all 72 Jin the first time I did it. I was missing a few, apparently, and I never actually transferred over the data the first time, but I did it when I restarted the game the second time, because there's an even harder mode, which makes it a lot more fun, but you get to keep your levels. I managed to actually get one of the better summons, Catastrophe. And Catastrophe is actually one of my favorites. It's basically just an upgraded Judgment, and it is pretty powerful, especially if you use it in the final battle against the final boss, which I'll get to. Finishing up the Mars Lighthouse and making your way up to the Eyrie, which, by the way, is a trial amongst itself, since you had to do 4 different doorways and 4 different sets of puzzles. Honestly, it's confusing as hell. But anyway, after getting up to the Eyrie, you are finally confronted with the Wise One yet again. Turns out, he's really pissed. At this point, he's going for broke. He wants you all dead, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. Your parents are gone from the town of Prox, as you've learned when you were there. Where do they go? Well, you're about to find out. You see, the Wise One summons a 3-headed dragon. Now, if you remember correctly, the 2-headed dragon at the end of the first game was Sitaris and Minardi combined together. So what could the 3-headed dragon be? Well, Jenna and Felix's parents and Isaac's father, all of which are now part of a dragon. Yep, a dragon, a 3-headed dragon. Doom Dragon is one of the most difficult bosses in this game to take down because you have to beat it not once, not twice, but 3 freaking times! Each one of its heads has at least 10,000 hit points, and each time you take one down, it gets stronger. This thing is basically a boss from hell and back again. However, the first time I managed to beat it, I swear it was by pure luck. Ivan was the last and final character I had. He quickly summoned up the weakest summon that I had, and he managed to win. It was a miracle! Especially since Doom Dragon attacks you like twice. Yeah! It was a miracle! Upon defeating Doom Dragon, you come to the realization that you basically went up against your parents. Felix, after everybody tries to heal the parents, decides it's time to throw in the star at everyone's discretion. They basically tell him, do it, because if alchemy returns, maybe, just maybe, their parents will survive. Doing so, though, creates the lighthouse to start shooting off power all over the place. And thus the Golden Sun erupts, and everything is about to go extremely well. Until hell breaks loose. Remember Alex? Yeah, turns out he's been climbing Mount Aleph. Why? He wants the power of the Golden Sun. Well, he gets a part of it. Yep. Turns out the Wise One decided, I'm going to pull a little bit of a dick move here, and I'm not giving you the complete power. It's too much for one person to have. You ain't going to be God of this world. That's my job. But I'm going to give you a parting gift. You get a power boost and the ability to live a lot longer. The rest of the power, It's gone to the 8 people that are currently on top of the Mars Lighthouse near Prox. Yeah, it went to them. They get to live for a good while longer. Why? Well, you'll see why when the 3rd game comes out, but I'm not going to get to that part yet. After all said and done, you decide it's time to leave Prox and head home to Vale. Doing so, well, there's a bad thing that happens. See, the lighthouses were going off as the credits were rolling, shooting the power of the Golden Sun to Mount Aleph. And once they're there, well, all hell breaks loose. Alex, as I said, tried taking on the Wise One. The Wise One quickly spanked his ass, and Alex went down into Mount Aleph. The Wise One told him, if you manage to survive, come find me. It'll be nice to see you again. There wasn't an evil laugh, but that would have just been perfect there. Anyway, upon returning to Vale, they find out that Vale is gone. Mount Aleph is in shambles and ruins, and everyone's dead, as far as they can tell. Garrett breaks down and loses it. Isaac and his father cry at the loss of Dora and the entire village. However, Sheba, Mai, and a few others are kind of having a good little joke about this. Felix tries to explain to them that he knows what they're going through. One of the few times your character actually speaks in the 2nd game. Yes, he makes a subtle I'm not going to talk motion at the one point leaving Lemuria. He asks why during the Shaman Road Challenge, and he talks at the end. Including what he talked in the 1st game, he has one of the shortest amounts of dialogue in this entire game series. Seriously! Spread out amongst the 3 games, he has the shortest amount of all the characters that you can play as. That tells you something. Anyway, it turns out the Wise One isn't so evil as they thought. He forewarned all the citizens of Vale to get the hell out of Dodge and fast. They took his advice and headed out of town to a safe spot that the Wise One said, this is about all the further you need to go. Don't worry, I'll make sure you stay alive and safe. Upon realizing everyone's alive, they have a very wonderful reunion where they're all happy, they're all playful and joyous, and the game comes to a satisfying conclusion. Golden Sun: The Lost Age has to be one of the best in the trilogy so far. And honestly, I'm going to say this, if I would have started off with this one, I probably would have wanted to pick up the first one so badly it wouldn't have been funny. Yes, it does have some issues. Hidden Psy-Energy that was cut from the game being the main port, being one of the main things. The fact that there are some glitches that can allow you to just hack your way through, regardless if you actually have all 72 Jinn. Yes, I know that's sort of a screw you too, but if I would have known about the internet back when I got this game, that would have made things a lot easier. And on top of that, there's also the, what I like to call, convoluted, overblown, why the hell am I on this massive fetch quest crap in the first half of the game? Seriously, you spend a good chunk of this game on a massive fetch quest. The first Golden Sun game, you weren't exactly on a fetch quest. But with the second one, the whole first half is a giant fetch quest. I gotta find a boat. I found a boat. I gotta get to Lemuria. I can't get to Lemuria without getting the trident. I have to find the trident. The trident's in 3 pieces. I have to find the pieces. I have to get the trident put back together. I have to go back and save and stop Champa from getting the boat. I have to go punish Briggs. I have to use Grandma to get the trident rebuilt. I have to now go to Lemuria. I have to take down Poseidon with the trident. Now I have to go over to the other side and use all the other stuff back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Hell, before you even get the ship, it's a hell of a lot of walking just to get from point A to point B and back again. And don't expect the guide to be much help. To use Zero the First, and I have found that out the hard way. The guide tells you where some of the stuff is, but the guide can be extremely off. Oh God, can it be off? So much so can it be off. It's almost like they wrote the guide while they were still in the beta stage of this game. Seriously, beta testers were probably writing this guide and they figured, well, this is good enough, let's just call it a day and put it out. But it does have some good parts to it. The music, the summons, Zangin, Catastrophe are two of my favorites. Even Medegra is one of my favorites. Some of the weakest ones in this have to be, well, Azul, Ulysses, just to name a couple of them. Charon's even not that great. Harness isn't that good. Moloch sucks. But Daedalus is great, to say the least. But anyway, the fact that a huge chunk of this game is traveling, yet the thing that would make traveling so much easier isn't given to you until the end point of the game. You don't learn the teleport Psynergy until near the end of the game, which sucks because that would have been so helpful in this game. Especially when you have to backtrack all the goddamn time. Here I am in this town. I have to go over to this town. Then I have to go back to this town. I get to go here and back over to here again. Then I have to double back to this place so I can go back to this place so I can get back to this. But none of this pales in comparison to the third game. That's right. It's time for me to dig into Golden Sun Dark Dawn.